What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your host and producer, Logan Landers. Join me here today to talk about the 2024 NCAA team preview for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Help me out is the very talented writer and now on-air talent, Mr. William Yanish III. William, how you doing, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Well, except for my sunglasses this morning. I dropped my
Oh,
Oakleys and chipped the lens, bro.
man, now you gotta get a new pair, but it's the summer, so it's all right. Good time to get them though.
It,
But
yeah. It's just a lens replacement. So,
yeah, you'll be fine. I'd say just stay
anyway,
indoors for the next couple of days, but you'll be all right. That'll go buy
yeah.
a cheap pair at the gas station for $5 just to hold you over.
Yeah. No, they don't fit right ever.
Okay, I got you. Well, like I said, before we get into this team preview here for the Alabama Crimson Tide, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to give us a like, follow, share, and subscribe. Facebook and YouTube, main two platforms over there. But you can also go and download our podcast, which is available every single week, thanks to the Believe Podcast Network. And you can download our shows on all major podcast streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music, just to name a few. But if you use another platform, then 9 times out of 10, we are over there as well. Once again, we have over thousands of episodes over there and even more over on our Facebook page and as well as on your YouTube also. So go over there and check out all of our great content we put out once again every single week. All right, William, let's get into this team. Alabama Crimson Tide, not led by Nick Saban. What is going on with this team coming into this year?
Yeah, not led by Nick Saban. That's the huge thing that's going on.
It's odd to say still.
Yeah.
I'm not used to it. I'm not used to another guy, especially when it hits, especially when the first game of the season starts. It's going to be weird not seeing Nick Saban over there looking grumpy as always, but still getting teams to wins.
Well, you got Kalen DeBauer now, and he is something coming over from Washington, and what he did with Michael Penix. He's a former player, and he sees it. And recruiting wise, he's done that as well because the preseason All American list. The first team is an offensive lineman, Tyler Booker, and second team is another offensive lineman, Parker Brailsford. And, he's really trying to get something going with Jalen Milroe. And Jalen Milroe he's an interesting case. This is somebody that is really, really dynamic and can, just go out there and ball. The thing is, coming over, what DeBauer did with Penix at Washington, DeBauer was in Indiana with Penix. He saw him before the injury and he saw him after the injury. This is the thing where, and I saw that watching film on Penix, watching him get healthy again and just what he did last year, coming up to the championship game and everything else, but running into, the buzzsaw that was Georgia.
Yeah, hey, we know the run they've been on. We talked about it a lot here on the program. And like I said, Alabama's they're still hanging in there. It's not like they've fallen off a cliff by any means necessary.
No, by no means, because, I have a second round grade on Jalen Milroe. This is a
Yeah.
guy, scouts are going big on him. There's mocks out there that have him number 1, number 5, just depending where they are. And that is the thing. What he has to do is listen to what DeBauer has to say and how he coaches him and what positions he puts him in. The one thing that really sticks out with Milroe is the 3.45 second snap to release time, and that is something that it should be under, right around, 2.5. He's almost a full second ahead of that or behind that, and that's the thing. You got linemen coming from everywhere, and what's he doing back there? For all that time,
No,
being
yeah,
the dynamic player that he is. But the kid, he comes out, his deep ball placement needs some work. Other than that, he was humbled last year when Quinn Ewers came in with the Texas Longhorns and, beat them at the beginning of the season. That's something that's not normal for Alabama. It was one of those things that kind of really knocked them down in the rankings. But like I said, he's got a 4-star commit coming in, the big name tight end, Caleb Edwards. And that is going to be the safety blanket for Milroe. And I would really, in the future, watch the quarterbacks that come in under DeBauer, like I said, Penix and all that good stuff. But I mean, what do you think, man?
Yeah, my thoughts on Milroe is a guy who, I mean, when you look at him, he's super talented. Like you say, lost in that shootout against Texas in week 2, 34-24 in that one. But other than the 2 picks, he had a solid game in the sense he threw for 255 yards and 2 touchdowns. But the thing about, he just looked off, right? He looked off that game. And the thing too about this team, about this Alabama offense, is they've got to protect him better this year. He was sacked 44 times last season. So you mentioned the release time, and I think that in part has to do with the fact that he was trying to find some extra room so he wouldn't be on the ground every other snap. If the O-line can improve, I expect that release time would also improve, but that's just my thoughts. I'll flip it over to the defense, though, and you mentioned that brand new head coach, they're going to bring on a lot of brand new other coaches as well. On the defense, we're looking at Kane Womack over there, defensive coordinator. We're going to be rolling with a potential 4-2-5 defense. So we're going to see how Bama can do over there on the trenches. When you look at this team, we'll start off with the D-line. And this is where I expect this team to really be strong and to really look good this year, because you have a lot of guys coming back this year. You have a lot of experience at your front core, and that's where I think this team is going to look really good. Let's start off nose tackle piece. You've got Tim Keenan III, redshirt junior. Last year was really solid, became one of the best run stoppers, really not just in the SEC, but I'd say in all of college football. He looked really good. Also, Damon Payne Jr. He's got first-team experience as well. He's looking good. He's got really good flashes on the line. Let's see if he can put it all together. And I think that he will look good. Damon Payne looking good. Also, behind him, you've got guys like freshman Nedrick Hill and Isaiah Faga. So some young guys might get a little bit of time, but I think that that's a really good nose tackle spot right there. And your deep tackle, you got Jaheim Otis as well as Tim Smith. I mean, both those guys, they've played with the first teams before since their freshman year. Both of them as a junior is for Otis and for a senior for Smith. So they have gotten experience with this team. They know what to do. They've got a lot of upside as well. So I think that when you look at some other players like Jamarian Latham, LT Overton, some guys who might get some more playing time, right? It's more of guy. And when I was doing my research, this is what Womack likes to call the bandit position, right? So what it is it's a lighter defensive lineman, right? Usually someone who's below the 280, and it's guys who are more so focused on speed as opposed to power. So that's why you've got guys like Latham and like Overton, guys who can really get it going there and could maybe, cause some disruptions this year. Then you've got Quandris Robinson, Keanu Cole helping out there also, trying to get some work in on the line. Then we get to the linebacking spot. You've got Deontay Lawson, redshirt junior, Jeremiah Alexander right there with him, that redshirt sophomore. And if Lawson is healthy this year, he's going to be one of the best players on the defense side of the ball, no doubt about it. Like I said, he's just been banged up last couple of years, like we just talked about with Connor Wegman, someone who's been beat up and just been taking more time off the field than on the field. But if Lawson can stay healthy, I think that Alabama will look solid this upcoming year at that inside linebacking position. He's got really good sideline-to-sideline speed. He looks comfortable back there, and he can really get it going. Other guys to watch out for, Jahad Campbell, Justin Jefferson, not the talented receiver in the NFL, but guys who, when I mentioned with Campbell, another guy, he's a junior, but he has missed some time. He even missed A-Day this past spring, so he's still coming into this year a little bit hobbling into the year, as opposed to having a lot of fire and ready. So, but the thing I like about Campbell, though, is he's got some really good athleticism for him. It could develop into a good pick if he stays healthy. And then the secondary, you've got some good players. Damani Jackson, you've got Deshaun Jones, Xavier Brown, and Xavier Mency, two guys at the end there I mentioned who are freshmen, but could see some time this year when all is said and done. But it's going to be tough, though. The secondary is going to have to prove something to me, William, because you're missing now Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold, both those gentlemen going to the NFL. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for these guys. None of the guys I mentioned, they don't have any experience at Alabama. So this is all fresh and new to them in the secondary. We'll see how they can do in this new position. We'll see how they can do thrust into the starting job. But that's going to be interesting to me is how can this secondary perform when they are under the bright lights out there in Tuscaloosa. Like I said, they all committed when Saban was there. They all said, all right, we're coming over. Now Saban's not there. Let's see if they can still get it going out there. Some other really good points. Go ahead.
I was going to say that's one thing, about what they have going on there with their schedule is something that I really wanted to mention. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, you're all good.
They've got the Iron Bowl, against Auburn. They've got Georgia. They've got the Garrett Nussmeier led LSU team. They've got Missouri that's always tough. They got Oklahoma that's can be up there. South Carolina, Tennessee, Florida State. Those are all games that are going to be tough and are going to test that secondary and test that defense. The 4-2-5 nickel is in a 4-3 defense. That is the most used in the NFL. It's on most 4-3 teams. It's like 40-45%, and it's a good defense. What they need to do is just replace who is left. With people that are buying into the defense, and really with this tough schedule, they need to gel quick.
Yeah,
and
they do. But I think too with Bama, obviously, they've got that potential, and they've got some help. As I mentioned, the cornerbacks are a little bit iffy about. I don't know about because they don't have any playing experience as starters at Bama, but luckily they have some guys behind them in the safety spot who can help out. Like I mentioned with Jackson, Jones, all those guys, they don't know, I wouldn't say what they're doing, obviously, but they don't know the Alabama way quite yet. But you've got Devontae Smith, who is a solid player, right? Really good player. And then I think that also with Red Morgan as well, freshman. Morgan, he's been starting a lot in the spring. He's replaced Malachi Moore, who we'll talk about in just a second. So Red Morgan might see some struggles. He's a freshman. He's a young guy. But Devontae Smith, it's kind of like the running theme here with this team on defense. They've got experience, but they've been injured. That you need, like I said, they've got to gel quick under this new coach if they want to have some success. As I mentioned, Malachi Moore is going to be your starting free safety this year. Only two remaining captains left on the squad. I expect him to have another great year, all in all. And then you've got Keon, one of their best additions they've had in the transfer portal was Keon Sabb, who's coming over from the Michigan Wolverines. I think he's going to look great. I think that he is going to fill some really good starting jobs there. After Caleb Downs left to Ohio State, Jalen Key went to the league. So they've got some guys there who are going to be stepping up and taking on bigger roles. But I think that Alabama's offense will look good. I think, obviously, you mentioned with Milroe and the rest of their team, their talented receiving core and their running back room. I think, obviously, they'll do what Alabama is expected to do, right? They'll have some good games. They'll put up a lot of yards. They'll look solid. With Jam Miller out there in your running back core, Kendrick Law, Jeremy Bernard, Kobe Prentice as well, just to name a couple of guys on the line out there helping out in your receiving core. But I think with Bama, like you said, it's a tough schedule. They've got a lot of tough games. You mentioned Georgia. Tennessee's always a toss-up. You've got LSU, of course, Oklahoma, Auburn. So it's not going to be a cakewalk by any means necessary, I don't think. But the final question here before we end our show today, is Alabama going to be one of the best 12 teams in football? Do they make the college football playoff? And also, I guess, are they going to win the SEC this year?
Of course they will. I don't know about winning the SEC,
but you got to be in top 12.
Very, very top 12. DeBauer stepped into a great situation with the recruiting that Alabama has. Washington never had that. And that's one thing to really, really watch. And like I said, this is Jalen Milroe's team. You know, he benched the backup, Ty Simpson. You know, and I mean
Yeah.
that's just how it is. I mean that's been stated. So it's going to be definitely interesting. The Garrett Nussmeier thing, he is like one of my favorite quarterbacks this year, and I am really looking forward. I'm going to watch that game and just see
It's
how
going to
it
be a
goes.
fun. It's going to be a fun one for sure, and you can check out, what me and William had to say about Garrett in another video we did last week. It's on the channel. You can go check that one out. But I think Bama, they're going to be a top 12 team, and I think they're going to be competing for the SEC spot. But it's going to be even tougher this year because we know Georgia's locked and loaded, and we know that they've had two big name additions to that league now, to that conference, in Texas and Oklahoma. So it's not going to be – I don't know if it's going to be the same two. I mean, obviously we know Missouri's got a good team. LSU's on the rise. I mean, and then you got teams who could play spoiler like Tennessee or potentially South Carolina, just throwing some names out there. So the SEC, a lot of people say it's been the best conference for the last couple of years. Florida as well. I mean, the amount of talent in that conference is insane, and it's only gotten even deeper now. So it's going to be – I think it's going to be a fight this whole season for who's going to take home the SEC crown. But I do think overall into the season, Alabama, I think I can confidently say, will be a top 12 team. We'll make that college football playoff, and we'll see just how far they go under new head coach Kalen DeBoer, as you mentioned, and we'll see if Jalen Milroe on the offense and the rest of the guys can kind of rally behind him and get things going, and see if Bama can get back to the top of the national championship like they've done for many, many years. But William, I want to say thanks, man, for coming on the show, talking about Alabama and how well they have done in the offseason, what they've improved on, what they need to improve on coming into this year, and also how we think their schedule will shake out. Well, it's going to be your host and producer, Logan Landers. If you enjoyed the episode, like, follow, share, and subscribe. And until next time, we'll talk to you again on another live episode. We'll see you soon.
Come see us at first